Well, here we are continuing on. Point B, God's providential government of the world. The doctrine of providence, you can hear the word provide in that, can't you? Providence. And it's the continuing work of the sovereign, caring Creator. You know, bringing it into being is the work of creation, but caring for it, managing it, is the ongoing work of the Creator God. He didn't just create and throw it away, didn't create and abandon it, but remains actively engaged in it. And it's the process by which, as the lecture outline says, God sustains the existence of his creation. What an awesome thought that without the ongoing sustaining work of God, things would collapse. Everything would atrophy. But he's sustaining it, keeping it buoyant, and directing its ongoing course. So he's engaged in the patterns of history, in the trajectory, in the narrative, and guaranteeing that in the end he will bring it to the end that he intends, which is good, like he is. So that's the great vision of providence, and I think it's very important for sort of the psychic level of serenity that a Christian is meant to experience amid all the troubles and problems and ominous things that we anticipate, that underneath are the everlasting arms of God's providence. This means that the world is ultimately a safe place. And that consciousness is the foundation for the conquest of debilitating anxiety and fear. And this is a work that involves the restraint of evil. Evil is present in this world, but providence restrains it, keeps it within boundaries. And the other thing that's really a challenge for us to understand as Christians, always has been a great challenge, is to understand how God can be superintending, managing, orchestrating, providing, while at the same time not, in a sense, doing an overdrive on, an override rather, on human freedom and moral responsibility. So this is just an enormously important thing. We don't fully understand how we can both be free and responsible for what we act and do, and at the same time that God is, in a larger sense, still in charge. But there it is, and that's the doctrine of providence. I've mentioned a few of the significant implications of it. Some of the problematic inferences we're going to be talking about include, if God is in charge and is managing things and paying attention, how is it that such an all-powerful, good, loving being could allow some of the horrendous things, the atrocities that are occurring? This dissonance is deeply disturbing and something we want to address. So let's transition now to our next topic, which is evil. Now, I want to start by saying that evil is never purposive. I mean, evil doesn't have to exist. It's not like a necessary antibiotic that protects us from something or other or makes us stronger, better people. Evil should not exist. It is that which ought not to be. It is that which is contrary to the character and will of God. Now, sometimes evil things happen and God can salvage some good from that terrible situation. But he didn't need it in order to get the good done. He didn't plan it in order to make us better. You see, he's the salvage operator, but he's not the perpetrator. You see? I was speaking just yesterday with a man who has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And as he was praying in his pain and despondency, he felt as though Christ spoke to him and said, "Oh," and he gave his name. Christ says, "I never meant it to be this way." That is hugely important. Evil is not of God, and he is committed someday to eliminating it altogether. That's our hope. But why evil is obviously so undesirable to human beings is all the destructive pain and suffering that evil causes. But it's important to step back and recognize that there are multiple sources of evil in the world. They're listed in your lecture outline. And they begin with moral evil, which is the same as sin, which is evil that's perpetrated by free moral agents like us. We make choices. They're bad. They hurt us. They hurt people all around us. A lot of the evil in the world is caused by sinners like us. But that's not the only source of evil in the world. Another one is systemic evil. And that's evil that's kind of built into the structures of the world order. Systemic evil. Now you could say that, well, we're indirectly responsible for creating some of these systems in the world as human beings, but we're not directly responsible in every case for the evil that something like racism or a kind of corrupt economy or something like that can hurt people, but it's not individuals who are necessarily responsible for causing it. Now, a third area is natural evil. Enigmatically, the scriptures say that as a result of human sin originally, the whole creation now groans. There is pain even in nature itself. And you can't help but wonder if nature red in tooth and claw, the food chain, all of that isn't in some way a reflection of how nature itself is not operating altogether as it should. And when tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes occur, we're dealing with things that can cause tremendous pain. They're not always linked to human sin, although probably the catastrophic effects of extreme climate these days are partly due to human sin and our abdication of the creation mandate to steward God's earth responsibly. So there is an interconnection between these sources of evil, but they're distinct as well. And a fourth one is the demonic. And in Ephesians 6, you have that classic, put on the full armor of God so that you can withstand the wiles of the devil, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. And we can't eliminate, if we take the Bible seriously, the reality of spiritual evil forces. But at the same time, we need to remember that we can't attribute all evil to that source. It's just one part of the human dilemma. All right, so there are those four sources, and they're very interconnected. Some are hidden behind the others, and etc. But I think it's very important to keep the four in view, because otherwise we are likely to attribute suffering and pain exclusively to moral agents and blame the victims sometimes for the evil that is not their fault. So this is an important a way of looking at it. I'm going to pause here and we'll get into something new in a moment.